Hi, I'm Micah Clark. Thank you for joining us today. This is the last day of the Indiana General Assembly. Now, I'm recording this a couple days before, but you're watching this on Friday. They will probably be in session today until maybe even midnight as they try to get out a week earlier than they had originally planned on this March 8th. So I want to talk to you a little bit about this week, about what I mentioned last week. Hopefully I won't confuse you, but we're in a very difficult and tenuous process right now called conference committee. Now let me explain what that is real quickly. Our founders who set up our legislative process in Indiana wanted to make sure that the House and Senate voted on the exact same bill before the bill went to the governor. You don't want to have a bill become law that the House never voted on. It's a checks and balance system so that both chambers vote on the final version. Well, what happens is a bill comes across, say a Senate bill starts in the Senate, goes to the House may make changes on it. Therefore, they're voting on a slightly different bill. So it has to go back to the Senate so that the Senate agrees with those changes and votes on that exact same language. Because again, you don't want the House and Senate voting on two separate bills and then sending one of those two to the governor. So it's a way that the Senate can check on House changes and vice versa. Well, the way that they do that so that the House and Senate vote on the same language is they have what's called a conference committee. Now, not all bills do this. If a bill's not changed substantially in the one chamber and the Senate agrees to it or the House agrees to it, they will concur, they'll review it, and they'll send it on to the governor. But a lot of times bills are changed, and so the Senate may want to have a second say on the bill that was changed in the House, or vice versa. The Senate may change a House bill, and the House may say, hey, we're not sure about this. We want to vote on this again. So they'll have a conference committee. Now, the conference committee is made up of 4 people, 2 from the House, 2 from the Senate, 1 from each party. It's typically the bill author and the bill sponsor. And so you will have a process where they get together in conference committee with these 4, and then there will also be advisors from both party, people who maybe co-sponsored the bill, maybe authored an amendment to the bill, but they have some type of say in this bill topic. So you have a conference committee. The conference committee will meet, they'll discuss what was changed, they'll discuss why those changes were made, and then one side or the other may say, well, we don't really like this change or we want to change it again. But what has to happen before the bill goes back to the floor is all 4 members have to sign on to the conference committee report. Now, what can often happen, and does happen very often, is because the partisan divide, let's say the Democrats, because they're in minority, may not agree to the changes of this bill. So they will refuse to sign on, and without all 4 signatures, the bill does not go back to the floor. Without agreement, the bill dies. So what sometimes happens is the House and Senate leadership, if say the 2 Democrats refuse to sign on to the bill, and the clock is running, which it is, especially today on this last day, House Speaker and the Senate President will pull the Democrats off the committee and put 2 Republicans on, or maybe 2 Democrats who would agree with that. They will sign on to that conference committee report, and then the House and Senate can vote on it again, debate it again, and vote on it. So that's the stage that we're in right now. And as you can imagine, it's very fluid because there's a rule that a bill that has passed one chamber can be inserted into a conference committee report. So you have all these different interests fighting them the last few days to try and get their language or their piece of legislation into a live bill that's going to go to the governor. So we have to watch very closely, and we have been watching very closely, what's happening in conference committees, because things pop up that we're not expecting, and changes can be made. And of course, there's also bills that we don't want changed, that good changes were made, we don't want taken out now. So it's a difficult process. It's a necessary process. I know why the founders did it. The U.S. Congress does the same thing. I'm sure other state legislatures do the same thing. But it's a very fluid time where we don't quite know what's going on. For example, as we're recording today, I'm very closely watching House Bill 1137. House Bill 1137, as I mentioned before, is a release time bill. Many states have this in place already, and it says that a school should release a student if they want to go do off-site religious instruction, maybe during lunch, during recess, study hall, free time. Up to 2 hours is usually the case. And a lot of times it may only be an hour. But there are programs maybe you've heard of, Good News Clubs, LifeWise clubs. I'm sure there's Jewish and Islamic students who go to those types of things if they're provided to be off campus, and approved by the parent. And that's part of our free system. It's a great idea, great program. And there's actually research out there showing where you have Good News Clubs or LifeWise Academy, a lot of times the behaviors of students are better. It has a good effect on the campus of the school when kids can go get Bible instruction, for example. So we wanted to change this law in Indiana because there's a couple cities, Rensselaer being one, I think another was over near Richmond, where the principal said, no, we're not going to allow a student to leave. And so we were a may state, meaning the school may approve religious instruction. We're changing that one word in that law to say the school shall make accommodations, from may to shall, for that student, as long as they're not disruptive. It's not like a student can leave algebra, or every student would leave algebra, to go to maybe some other class. And so this is for something that's designed to be non-intrusive, but something for character building. And it's very popular in a lot of schools. Not every school has this, but it's something we think schools should allow students to do. And the school should be required to allow the parents and the student to do this. So we're watching that very closely. The committee has met as of this recording. They discussed their differences. Also in this bill, and it could be part of the hang-up, because the courts have actually sided with release time. So the opponents of release time don't have a lot of ground to stand on because the U.S. Supreme Court has upheld this, and many states have this. But in that provision, there was a bill that passed the Senate Bill 50, that would allow public schools to have chaplains, where a student could go visit a chaplain if they want to, with the parents' approval. And schools could hire chaplains as a way to offset their need for school counselors if a school chooses to do that. If they want to do that, it's voluntary. And of course, student participation would be voluntary. But that was stuck in 1137 because the House refused to hear that bill. I would like to see that stay in, but I think that may be taken out. So they met, they adjourned, they're working behind the scenes. A lot of this happens behind the scenes, out of public view. They're trying to get 4 signatures on this bill. Hopefully, as you watch this today, maybe they have, because we really want 1137 release time to move and get a final vote, be sent on to the governor. Now, I think that bill will pass overwhelmingly. Perhaps on a party line vote, it was not quite that way in the Senate. It easily passed the Senate, but actually easily passed the House. Got hung up in the Senate a little bit with a little more opposition, but it should pass if we can get it out of the conference committee stage, if those 4 signatures can be obtained. So pray about that. Hopefully by today, it's sailing through, but I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball as I record this on Wednesday. But another bill that's in that same position that just kind of popped up, we didn't expect. I actually watched the committee hearing on this from start to finish. It was House Education Committee hearing Senate Bill 282. I mentioned this in my email this week. SB 282. Now that was an interesting bill because it was heard on Tuesday of last week. It was the last day of the House Education Committee. I was a little upset with the committee chairman for not hearing Senate Bill 128, which regarded transparency in sex education. A wonderful bill that the House didn't hear, that they killed. Very unfortunate. It's a loss for us. But instead they heard Senate Bill 282, and they rammed this thing through in 26 minutes. I watched the clock. They amended it 9 times in 26 minutes and passed it out. It's a very significant bill, but in amendment number 18 that was adopted without a vote, by a voice vote, very little discussion. As you can imagine, doing nine amendments and discussing and voting the bill out in 26 minutes, it was fast-tracked. It moved very quickly. Well, amendment number 18 stuck into this various education bill. That's the title, Various Education Matters. An issue on, I don't know how to describe it, school complaints. If a parent makes a complaint about a teacher or a school employee, and it turns out by the principal deeming that allegation to be false, language is stuck in that bill that would allow the school principal to ban a parent from attending school functions for 6 months. So this has a very chilling effect. What parent is going to complain about their teacher or about a janitor if the principal determines this to be false, and the school then says you cannot attend after school, it concerns after school programs for athletics or for academics? What parent isn't going to want to be banned from going to their child's basketball games for 6 months because they complained and made a false allegation against the teacher? Now, I'm not in support of false allegations, but this has a chilling effect on a teacher or a parent complaining about an employee of the school if they're afraid that the principal is going to side with the teacher and say, oh, brush it under the rug, this is false, and you've made this accusation once or twice, you've complained about it twice, you cannot now see your child for 6 months after school. Listen to me, the children do not belong to the school, they belong to the parents. Are there problematic parents? Of course, but there's also problematic teachers and principals. And it strikes me as very wrong to say to a parent, you cannot come see your child when they're at the public school. The school belongs to the parent, the child belongs to the parent, school belongs to the taxpayer. These are public schools. The parent should not be banned from seeing their child or participating. We hear about parental activity, the importance of parental rights, parental involvement. Don't ban parental involvement. Look, if a parent makes a false accusation to the point where it's a problem, where it's bogus, I'm not against something being done, but this bill goes too far. I think this is a real problem. So I am hoping that this bill will go to conference committee. Hopefully by the time you watch this, it already has. And I hope that the Senate comes back and says, hey, this was put in the House and we're not so sure about this. This needs to be rewritten. By the way, if you want to look this up, it's on page 2, line 29 through 31. It's very front of the bill. There's a section there about the principal being able to ban a parent from attending school activities for up to 6 months. That goes too far. I can see all sorts of problems with that. So pray about Senate Bill 282. Pray again. I hope it's fixed by the time you see this. I hope the Senate catches this. We've had some phone calls. A lot of alerts have been done by other groups. It was in my email on Wednesday. I think this is on the radar. I've talked to the bill's author, and I hope that they fix this because this could be a real problem to say to a parent, hey, you complained about this teacher, and we don't think that's legit. You can't come back to school for 6 months. That's draconian. I see real problems with that. So I hope they come up with a better solution in Senate Bill 282. Again, nobody wants false accusations, but banning a parent who's concerned about their child and concerned maybe about the way their child's being treated by a school employee, don't silence the parents, don't scare the parents into not speaking up with the threat of being banned from the school for up to 6 months. I don't even know if that's constitutional. It shouldn't be. But I hope the Senate has caught wind of this, and I hope they're doing something to fix Senate Bill 282, because that's very concerning to me. Well, again, a very tenuous process. They'll be in session a long day today. You can go online and watch what's going on. You can watch video of the floor hearings, of the debates. You can watch conference committees on bills. You can still track bills at the Indiana General Assembly website. I encourage you to go there. If you have questions about this video, feel free to email me. We will come back next week and do a recap, maybe even 2 weeks, depending on the length. We will come back. I'll do a recap of the Indiana General Assembly for 2024 because we do have some good things to talk about I want to share with you. But right now, things are up in the air, and the session's going to go late until the night. And you'll read a lot about what they did, maybe not about issues I've talked about, but I will address a lot of the issues in the media next week and kind of give you a recap of how we've done. But I want to say this again. Thank you so much for your support of American Family Association. Your phone calls to legislators made my voice a lot stronger down there when they were getting phone calls on issues I was testifying on or talking to legislators about. Your prayers for AFA are critical, and your support financially of AFA mean a lot to us. They help us be your eyes and ears as we activate and mobilize Hoosiers to be an important part of the legislative process, and your duty as citizens to be civically involved. So again, thank you. And next week we'll come back, wrap up, and tell you about the good things, maybe a few of the bad things, but hopefully good things that happen in your 2024 Indiana General Assembly. I'm Micah Clark. Thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend.